Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Todd Ronan. I'm joined with my co-host, Daniel Laxtons. Daniel, how you feeling today?
Feeling fantastic always. How about you?
I feel good. Some of you may have noticed that my beard is much shorter than it normally would be. It's like a wizard beard, but I decided that spring is coming, so let's trim things up. Welcome to the Reality Forecast Show. My name is Todd Ronan. I run realityforecast.com. We're going to start some new classes coming up on my website. I'm going to teach some classes on telepathy, on exopolitics, on exocommunication, which is essentially what are the aliens thinking. Now, we don't use alien, targets in remote viewing because it's not something that is verifiable. We like to use verifiable targets in remote viewing. But what I'd like to talk today about is pushing that edge using remote viewing for more advanced applications. If you're interested in any of my classes or the advanced healing class that I'm going to be teaching, Awakening Self-Healing, you can go to Reality Forecast, click there and send me an email, and I'm happy to schedule time to chat with you about what's coming up. You've taken my course, Daniel. What do you think about the temporal awareness perception remote viewing course?
It's amazing. A lot of times a person might be wanting to expand on their gifts that they have. And some people wonder, well, do I even have gifts? Do I have to have maybe a heritage where my great grandmother was a remote viewer? You know what I'm saying, though, whether that they had gifts, but it doesn't have to follow the family line. What I found is through exercise and practice, you get better. And so doing your program was really helpful for me because you have to work it. Yeah. It's like what you were talking about earlier. We are talking and finding the edge of where reality is, and then practicing going there in our mind. And then when we're in your class and then you show us the answers and we see the results and how we are getting closer and better, it was amazing. I really did appreciate the class.
Oh, well, thank you. Very good high praise from you. I appreciate it. I know it's hard to teach you something new, so thank you for the praise. People do finish my course and they're left wondering what is it that I can do now with remote viewing. There are a lot of target sites out there where you can go and use a photograph or an event and do a remote viewing session on that. The session takes like 40 minutes to an hour. You could make a longer session. The longest session I've done is about 50 pages, and it took me a few days. So you can pause and start and restart. But what can I do now that I know the process of remote viewing or remote perception, or in my case, temporal awareness perception? You can use that for crime scene investigation. So you can lend your services to missing person cases, and I recommend that to get better at it, you do work on that. That's giving of yourself freely and doing sessions for free for others so that they can see what you can provide to certain cases. Because a lot of times the police are their last resort and they've exhausted all their resources. So you can go ahead, you can take a look at that and create timeline reconstructions. Through remote viewing, you could even do more forensic investigation in your remote viewing session than the police are able to do on site, because you could see things at both a micro level, a macro level, and then you can sort of vector out on like where the body is, what the perp is doing now. And it's a way to push your senses so that you're not just doing photo repetition targets, because boredom begins to set in your unconscious when you do photo after photo after photo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are some other things that might be exciting when it comes to remote viewing that people might be interested in learning and that
Some of the
correspond
things
to
you
their
can
interest?
teach or you can use it for is looking at pattern recognition or relationship matching or relationship inconsistency. That's a mouthful, but essentially relationship matching. So I like to use remote viewing if someone comes to me with a problem with their mate and they're trying to figure out how to problem solve to figure out what the best solution is. A lot of times they resort to counseling, but through remote viewing in the later stages, I can set up a matrix sheet that looks at the core problems in the relationship, which aren't always known to either party until I present them with them. And then when they look inside and say, well, that really is a problem. I think I could do better by understanding that from my mate's perspective. So We verbalize a lot of the problems that we think we have, but when those problems are on our unconscious, we really have no access to what they are. And remote viewing can pierce that veil to find out if something is in your unconscious or if it's like, below the liminal threshold.
It's really cool. What about other other things too? Because man, you're going through a huge list. And I was really shocked at how much you can do with remote viewing.
Yeah, it's not just looking at pictures anymore. So another thing I like to do,
Well, you even got the markets too, right? So you can get some concept
it's
of
not
what
100% accurate. That's really the biggest grab. It's the cash grab that remote viewers are always looking for. Why are remote viewers lottery winners is always the answer. The question that I get, why haven't you won the lottery if you're a remote viewer?
good
The
point.
first problem is numbers are hard and they're not real. So let's say I give you, Daniel, a blind target, and the target is 8. Now you're going to get a lot of superficial metadata in your session, and you're going to get what 8 means to you. It could be the symbol of infinity. It could be the yin and the yang of life. It could be nothing related to that at all, because it's your unconscious telling me what you think 8 means. But 8 will mean something different to other people. They would get different targets, and you would get the feedback. First of all, you'd curse me as the person that gave you that target and say, what the hell's wrong with you? Why would you give me a number? And I would say, I'm trying to teach you how to remote view better.
Mhm.
But every person gets something different. So numbers are difficult.
Incidentally, I was born on the 8th, so that was cool.
Then it means your
Infinity.
birthday. It means your birth. It means the signal of
Yeah.
life. But for every person, it's something different. And you'd have to do like 5 to 7 sessions on each number. That's 0 through 9 to find out what you're perceiving for each of those numbers. After that, you might understand what you mean when you get 7 in your data. But
Mm.
7's it's not physical. There's no physicality to it. So we can woo through associative remote viewing targets like ARV, through muscle testing, through box dowsing in stage 7, give an example of who we think is going to win a certain sports game, a racing event, the market, what will the price do over a period of time. And we're tacking at like 58% accuracy, which isn't great, but it's over 50%. Because there's superfluous data too. There's data that's not relevant that we're getting in our session. We don't just get, the Colts or the Indiana Pacers, whatever. We get more. We'd have to view a picture, and then we'd have to interpret that data and determine which one is right. So there are a lot of ways to make a mistake when you're remote viewing. There are a lot of ways to look at the market, but statistically, you will have an edge over a random flip of the coin. And we're aiming for 70% this year by nailing down a couple of different techniques and having a team of remote viewers at Reality Forecast to better accurately tell you what's coming in the marketplace.
That's so cool and exciting.
I don't actualize that data. And I think that is part of the problem too. If you're a tasker, you're looking for, hey, what's the next spike in crypto coin? Well, I'm going to put my money in it. And so now I've already set up a system to fail because my internal blocks will come through, and my like emotional aversion to having other people's need greater than mine, or I'll sabotage it because I created it. So the person that creates the target has to be apart from the investment stage of it. And they have to just say, all right, we're in this for the altruism. We're going to say, here's our data. This is what we're pushing forward. Invest or not, use your own discretion. But that is the best way that I say to come into it, with a little bit of healthy optimism, but also don't bet your entire farm, because foreclosure is the real deal and can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. In law of attraction, we call that resistance, or in reality creation, it's like what you resist. Or if you care too much about something, then you're going to draw the opposite of what you want. And so that's kind of smart to trade, if you are doing this, to trade without any emotion involved. You don't want to, so don't ever buy stuff of your favorite something, because,
Right.
it's kind of like you're always wanting your team to win. And then when it doesn't, you always feel let down type of thing.
Yeah.
But remote viewing is very similar to that.
Yeah. And it's important that you not know what it is that you're remote viewing, that you're always blind to it too. So
Mhm.
that's the problem in the setup for a lot of these advanced perception skills, that you have to have a lot of remote viewing sessions done blindly under your belt before you can take the exit to doing the more advanced stuff. And that just takes practice. It takes practice. It takes more practice. And as you get better, as you learn your own lexiconography or your own vocabulary in remote viewing, then you can chart how accurate you are.
Yeah. What do you think about relationships when it comes to remote viewing? Because you kind of hit it on the head. When you're a remote viewer, you really don't do this all by yourself. So you'll always have relationships around you. And that's kind of a rewarding thing in my book.
Well, the biggest reward that you will have in a relationship is knowing yourself. And I feel like we're all becoming disconnected from ourselves by looking at external devices and external places for salvation. Remote viewing in a lot of ways is, how do I best know myself? My unconscious awareness is aware of everything that's happening around me in space and time, in this life and my next life. And so remote viewing, we always think of the paper being done. So when you're done with the remote viewing session, you write end, you write the time, what time you finished, and that's it. You put it away in a file, you never look at it again. What I like to encourage people to do is do an inventory of your remote viewing session. Let it sit for a while, and then go back and look at it and see how it reflected reality. Because you're done with the session and you think you didn't do very well and you're very critical of it. Well, let it sit for a while. Let it sit for a day, and let it become a dynamic session. So I always talk about the static and the dynamic. People think remote viewing is static, it's done on the page, it's completed. Well, you can look at things from a remote viewing journal perspective. And I teach my students how to look at their session a day or 2 or 3 days later and just reflect on how accurate you were with your senses, with your smells, with your tastes, and with your higher perceptions in stage 4. What notions came up? How did you interpret it? And letting it sit for a while, you start to realize you're getting better. As you remote view, you can look at your journal page, which is a 1-page template. You just look at it and see how accurate you were in certain sensory perceptions, visual perceptions, and you can chart your accuracy and see, well, I'm getting better at this stage, and I'm getting worse at this stage. What's wrong? Maybe I'm imagining things too much. Maybe I'm trying to pull that scene into my vision so much when I'm remote viewing that I'm forcing it away. And
Mhm.
just having that journal, long answer to your short question, looking back at what you've done is really important in helping you move forward.
That's really cool. Yeah. Keep a journal. I actually do have a journal, but I'm not going to show it to you right now because I don't know where it is. It was right here. I'm sure it's here somewhere, but that's
I've got a
cool.
book,
I
Daniel,
got one
that
in here.
I've got a book that everything that I write in it comes true. And I have to be very careful with that book because there's some certain power around the book that I created a long time ago. And when you can really manifest anything that you want, that power is scary. And so I don't use the book often because I know everything that I write in it will come true. Um, and so it's in my bookshelf. I know where it is. I see it and I thank it when I see it. But that's another course that I could teach, awakening your own manifestation through a process called uh, light encoded reality matrix. So you create sort of a light facsimile or a scaffolding, and then you can create it in reality. But reality forecast is where you want to go to learn more about remote viewing and about awakening your self-healing, and hopefully more about that manifestation class we just talked about. How can people find
Mhm.
you if they're interested in looking you up, Daniel?
Yeah, they can go to ultimaterealitysurfing.com. So go to, yeah, that's my main page. They're the ultimaterealitysurfing.com. And yeah, just check it out. They can get a free download of Designing Your Perfect Reality. If you just click on download the worksheet, and that will get you a start, really a good start, because that's the biggest thing that most people, they don't do, is sit down and think about what they want. They always know what they don't want, but they never write down what they do want. And so just go get your free page, and you can start designing your reality today.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining me on the Reality Forecast Show. We will
Thanks,
see you next
Ronan.
time.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.